you get to that point sometimes in your life with situations and things where
Sure.
you don't give a shit anymore. Like you just don't. But I think that you got to get to that point in order to do great things. So, God taking me to that journey and like, and through that really crazy upbringing, um, it's set me up.
Wow. It's like the pain that you went through was necessary to put you in a position to express yourself in a different way that actually led to so many other people feeling joy. Isn't that just almost poetic in a way?
It's amazing. And
The skating industry really is like a family, especially because of how small it is, you know? Like it
yeah,
almost feels like it's a fraternity, right? Like
yeah,
I never got to go to an official college and join a fraternity, but I can imagine what it's like, the idea of having a brotherhood, right? That even if
right.
you don't talk to somebody for years, the fact that we all do this thing that we love,
Yeah.
it bonds us together. And it does make my heart feel happy when I hear stories of skaters, you know, doing their thing in whatever way it is, right? Everybody has their own version of what doing their thing means, right? And it's just nice to see, man. I'm really grateful for this community.
I'm extremely grateful and I'm extremely proud.
Yeah, well, you've actually been involved with skating since the beginning. Now, do I have it correct that you were the first rollerblader to do a grind on handrails?
I was the first documented anyways, and we've put it out,
Wow.
tested it. I know that I started skating in 1985, and I know that I signed with Rollerblade Incorporated as a 14-year-old kid in 1987, and that, I was blessed to be surrounded by video cameras when there were none, like when it was extremely expensive and not accessible to the public. I was surrounded by it and being filmed and being documented. The guys from Video Groove at the time, Sean Tomlin and Morgan Stone, those two started Video Groove, and then they soon handed it over to Dave Payne, who then ran with it for all the VG series. But
Yeah.
those guys documented myself, Chris Garrett, Angie Walton, Pat Parnell, Jess Darenforth, Chris Morris, who was a huge influence. Chris Morris was incredible. So the first video was Dare to Air, and it showed some of the first grinds in history. And
Now, that's amazing. So when you were signed to Rollerblade, if that was before that happened, what were signed rollerbladers doing at that time before grinding?
well, at the time, they had a performance team that would do a lot of like dance shows, but then they started to incorporate like a little launch ramp, and then they would incorporate a quarter pipe. So I was doing a lot of airs. I mean, I got nicknamed the Airman back in the day because I just like I
Yeah.
what I was doing. I was just blasting massive airs, front flipping over cars off of a little 2-foot kicker, banging out Big McTwist out of an 8-foot wide, 8-foot high quarter pipe. Like I was
This is
just.
all pre-grinding?
This is all pre-grinding, yeah. So like,
Wow.
pre-grinding, I was just blasting airs on half pipes and quarter pipes and things like that, and doing a little bit of street skating, gapping, doing gaps, spinning and flipping, like all that kind of stuff was really the roots of everything. And then in 1991, skateboarding had just started hitting some rails, and bikes had just started coming out with the pegs, and they were starting to smack some grinds. And I was born and raised in Escondido, California, so I'm a Southern California kid, and I had dibbled in skateboarding and dabbled in BMX. My dad was an avid skier, and so he had me skiing since I could pretty much walk, since I was like 5 years old. And uh, for the first time, I saw skates in 1985. I was 12 years old, and Rollerblade had this promo or in-store display, right? And it had a dude on rollerblades with ski poles, and I was like, oh, okay. Let me see. Because out of all the things that I experimented with in my youth, you know how we all do when we're young.
Right.
Mom, buy me a bike. And then you ride it for two weeks, and you're, no, buy me a skateboard. And then I want to play the trumpet. And like you get the trumpet, and then it's over. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, you're experimenting with life, and you're experimenting with the things that you think you're gonna fall in love with, but
Right.
it's really find that thing. And for me, it was rollerblading, and it was being in the hot sun in SoCal that just really got me stoked. My family had moved to Los Alamos, New Mexico from Southern California for a handful of years. And when we moved back, I was 12. And in New Mexico, in Los Alamos, there's a private ski hill there. And I would ski every weekend, and I skied on a Wednesday. Like my dad would take me out of school and let me go ski on a Wednesday. So I was really skiing a lot, man. And I was jumping off cliffs and making jumps and jumping them. I loved it. And when I moved to California, that was no longer an option unless I drove 2 hours, right, to Big Bear, which is still an option, but it's a 2-hour
Right.
trip. It's not in my town. And so when I saw the dude with the ski poles, I was just like, oh man, I think I might be able to land ski, and so I
Land ski.
yeah.
That's funny.
So then I grabbed them, and I started jumping off of anything and everything I could possibly jump off, man. And I fell in love with them. I rode those skates every single day, every day of my life, to school, back from school over to my friend's mini ramp, from the mini ramp over to my friend's half pipe, from the half pipe over to the bike shop. My next door neighbor at the time when I was 12, he owned North County Bicycles in Escondido. So I was blessed that we became friends, and he let me work in his bike shop when I was like 12, and he would pay me with these shop points rather than dollars, because you're not allowed to
Yeah.
let kids work. So, but I would go, clean toilets, sweep up the floors, bring in the bikes, take out the bikes, do different things and learn about bikes and stuff. And I would earn like six points an hour, and they would accumulate. And at the end of the week, I'd have 100 points, and I could buy anything in the store for $100, right? So,
Right.
so then,
Shout out to skate shops, man. Skate shops really
yeah,
do lead the way. That was my first job too. Yeah.
yeah, nice. Yeah. So then I earned my first pair of skates, and they were Rollerblade Zetras. This was pre-lightning. Okay. This was pre-nylon.
Wow.
This was a Rollerblade Zetra. It was a metal frame, the one with all the little holes in it. I think it was heavy. It was made of steel, but it worked. That was the first mass-produced skate, was the Rollerblade Zetra. They had a 303 and a 606 model, and I grabbed a little bit better one, the 606 model, and I went to town on them. And then I think it was around 1987 when I got connected with Rollerblade from Martin Wazowski, the owner of the skate shop. Okay, so the owner of the skate shop, he was awesome. I skated every day, and he started noticing that I was getting really good, and that he also watched me pick up a bike and put it down. He also watched me pick up a skateboard and put it down, but then he watched me not put the skates down.
Right.
And I was charging, and one day I showed up to work, and he's like, today I want you to go with these guys. And he introduces me to Chris Morris and Pat Parnell, who were representing Rollerblade at the time. Chris Morris was the regional rep of California and the Southwest, and he was the one who sold him the skates, right? And so then he goes, go with these guys. and go do what you do. I was like, okay. So I took Morris, I took Pat Parnell, who at the time told me that he was not feeling well, but as I got older, I realized that he was just hungover. Yeah, so I take Chris Morris, I take him to Escondido High, which was in my town, and I cruised him to all my favorite little spots, hop up over rails and boom, boom, jump in this gap here, this set of stairs there, and uh, he couldn't keep up with me, bro. Like he couldn't keep up with me, man. You know, grown man couldn't keep up with a 14-year-old kid, and he was just
Yeah.
like, man, you're like next level, man. Like let's go. So then he got me connected to Rollerblade, and you know, at first, what happened was in '87, I made the team, and then they had me do a couple of these things, but I was like on the junior team, you know, like, and I showed up to a shoot. They told me, hey, we're gonna put you on the cover of a box. I'm like, oh, cool, that's awesome. So then I show up. Man, they put me in spandex, and I'm on the. I did the shoot. Like I didn't know how to tell them that I wasn't comfortable and that this is just not cool, and that's not how I want to be, you know. Like, and I didn't know how to say no, so I did it. But then I got home and then I got a hold of Morris. I was like, Morris, man, I don't want to do the spandex thing, man. Like that's not my gig, you know. Like I just like to skate and jump stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So it got a little bit quiet for a second, but then in 1989, well, Morris would start finding other ways to get me involved. So I think like the next year, like 88, 89, he brought the launch ramp, the quarter pipe. He got those to be able to bring to demos so that I could go do that and not be in the spandex realm, you know, which, you know, I don't judge anyone who wears spandex because it's very comfortable and it's definitely great for sports. But me personally, I'm like hung like an elephant, so it's embarrassing. Kidding,
So
kidding. But all kidding.
when so they're taking you around now doing the rap shows and everything.
Yes.
And at what point did grinding start becoming popular? Because when you did it, were other sports grinding? Like were skateboarders doing handrails at that time already?
Well, okay, so like between 1988 and 1990, it was a lot of just quarter pipe launch box banger bangs, right? And I think it was 1989. Jess can correct me if I'm wrong, but Jess Darenforth and Angie Walton got involved with Team Rollerblade, and
Yeah.
by then we were doing half pipe shows. You know, by like 1990, we were doing straight up vert shows. Um, and it was myself, it was like Chris Garrett, Jess Darenforth, Angie Walton, Parnell. So we were doing and Jimmy Trumbull. We were doing just half pipe shows, you know.
Yeah.
And Darenforth comes from BMX. Like he was a pro or at least a semi-pro BMX rider. He rode for GT, I believe, and like he was sick on his bike, you know. And at first, we were doing a lot of multi-sport stuff back then. We were, Jill Schultz was part of the rollerblade like dance team, but she would organize these shows that would like boom have like the dancing and then the and more like figure skate kind of stuff on rollerblades, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
pipe in the background. But she managed to get like Matt Hoffman, Dennis McCoy, these like BMX
Wow.
legends, and Tony Hawk. Like I'm on the ramp with Tony Hawk and Dennis McCoy and Matt Hoffman. Like this is where my insanity of skating is like driven from. Is I had to like keep up with those dudes. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Best to keep up with those guys. And I'm forever grateful and so honored that I had the opportunity to ride with those guys. It really shaped me and informed who I am as a skater, and ultimately, who I've become as a human being. That's a major part of me, but I got to do demos with Danny Way, Colin McKay, like those guys, man. I love those guys. They're incredible human beings, and in their own rights, absolute goats and legends within their communities, Um,
Yeah.
but so 1990, we filmed the movie Prayer of the Roller Boys with Corey Haim. I between 88 and 1990, man, I started landing a bunch of commercials. I was doing Sunny Delight commercials, Coca-Cola commercials, Frosted Flake commercials. I was like landing all these commercials, because I could do like crazy stuff. And I'd go up to the audition, boom, I'd outskate everybody. I'd do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then bang, I'd get the role. And it was awesome, Um, and so then we do the movie, Pair of the Roller Boys, Day of the Rope. And then by 1991, skateboarding started to grind. BMX started to grind a little bit. I think they were just starting to hit handrails and everything as well. And in 1991, skateboarding like reverted to these ridiculously small wheels, like really small, like 48, 50 mil
Oh,
wheels.
wow.
And they were narrow in profile. And I think that what it was it was right when ollieing really started to become a thing, and flip tricks and kick flips and that kind of stuff. So it brought
Yeah.
the truck and everything real low, and the tail down real low, so they could smack it real quick and get these like really awesome flips. And so that ended up being what we used. Jess Danforth and I were like, man, we got to figure out how to grind. Like, how do we make these skates grind? And we
Right.
were, at the time, the only company making anything was Rollerblade Incorporated, right? So, like, Rollerblade was the company, the only company. They were the ones producing it. Kryptonics was pouring their wheels, and that was it. Like, that was the industry. And
Wow.
the frame on a Lightning is set up for recreational. So it was built to hold 72 millimeter wheels, all four wheels, with zero gap and no way to grind. I managed to, on November 21st of 1991, I guess documented, I managed to do kind of a Royale slide down like a 4-foot, 5-foot rail. I jumped up, I put those puppies sideways, and I slid down it, and I landed it. So we're
Wow.
oh, we can do this. Like, we can jump up, we can balance a little bit, and we can come off. The problem was at the time, to have to like really shifty was hard to hold a shifty for a minute. So I wanted to be able to stand up on my frame and stand on the rail, was the goal. So we realized that the small skateboard wheels that were being produced at the time were narrow enough to go in. They went into the frame. They fit a rollerblade frame without having to modify the wheel, or have to come up with a shit ton of money to make a frame. Because at the time, it would have
Right.
been hundreds of thousands, if not close to $1 million, to produce a whole new frame and a whole new, get up, which, we didn't have as poor skaters, but it worked. It created a gap big enough, they had like a good 2.5 foot finger gap, with the wheels being so small that you could actually grind it. So I took them. I remember calling the Rollerblade R&D department, and I requested like 6 pairs of skates. And they're like, what do you need 6 pairs of skates for? And I was like, well, I'm working on something. Like, can you please send me 6 pairs of skates? And they did, which, back then, the frames were riveted. They were riveted to the boot. There was no UFS, didn't even come until 2000, right? So
Wow.
it took years before the UFS became an accepted, uh, uh, unified system, So that
Right.
didn't until 2000. Up until 2000, things were riveted. For the most part, they were riveted. There might have been Yeah, I think by the time we did Daytona, you could take the frame on and off, but it wasn't universal. It was its own thing. You
Yeah.
have other.
So they sent you the 6 skates. What'd you do with them?
Okay, so with the 6 skates, because what happened was the first pair of skates, I grinded the curb and I grinded a groove in that frame, and the frame snapped. So
Ah,
that's why I guess that's why my brain just like led us to the fact that the frames were riveted. So I needed skates because I was breaking frames. I had to figure out how to not break the frame and still be able to grind, you know? So it took me a few attempts, but then I went to Home Depot. I got a joist hanger, and I cut out the a square for it to be able to slide up because it fit the frame real nice because it's really the frame's about as wide as a 2x4, right? It's like about as wide as a two by
yeah.
four. Joist hanger was able to go right up on. I just had to drill a couple holes for the bolts, and then I had to cut a couple little spots so that the wheels would have clearance. And I slid it on, man. And that
Was
that
that
thing,
like the H block, the beginning of the H block?
yeah, yep, that was the beginning of the H block. And
Wow.
what started out as a joist hanger by 1994, we with Rollerblade we um, had the H plate. It was the metal H plate. So I used that plate for years, and it worked really well. Like, I liked it. It was fast as hell. But what I did was I would plate my power foot, my front foot, and not plate the back foot, and let the back get a small little groove, and I could actually kind of like twist my back leg a tiny bit and like hit wheels and like control my speed going down the.
Wow.
So by the beginning of 1992, I was screaming down some rails. I mean, some big rails. You look at Dare to Air, those rails, that's all filmed in 1992. So everything you see in Dare to Air was filmed in 1992. Back then, it took 6 to 8 months of post before anything could be released. Because it wasn't like today's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you were editing on tape and
look at
distributing
me,
VHSs. Yeah.
So I mean, you can imagine though, because even still today, to make a decent Instagram edit, it can take you 30 minutes to an hour if you really want to like make a decent little edit. Even
Right.
with the ease of the ability to edit and drag in and drag out and maneuver your things. But in order to make a decent edit, that's like 30 seconds long, it's still going to take you 30 minutes to an hour. If you wanted to have any sense of quality. Right. So then you can imagine then to make a 60-minute film back in the day when you had to log all of the video, you had to take because everything was going to go to VHS. I think we had by 90 when we were filming in 92, I think that the 8 mil had just come out. That was like the thing. The little
Yeah.
baby tape, like that had just become the thing. And the quality on that was like superb compared to the VHS. And then the camera size, because you used to have to you were like straight up like broadcaster with your own personal VHS camera, just because the tape was so big. And then the unit, like,
Yeah.
all up on your shoulder, and you're like, smile, it's your birthday. Like that was like, the home VHS recorder back in the day was like, watching some dude at the Super Bowl film the Super Bowl. But but then the 8 mils came, and then the cameras got all the way down to like a size of a football, or a little bit smaller even. So, but still, you'd have to take that tape, you'd have to go log that tape, you would have to mark that tape as to where it is on the tape, and it wasn't as easy as it is now. Like you don't get to
Yeah.
instantly fast forward, and so there was a lot of work that went into it, and the amount of work that Dave Payne put into everything in Video Groove is like really
Oh, it's incredible. It's legendary. I mean,
yeah.
Dave's. I mean, my first video groove I saw was like VG19, you
Yeah,
know, and then I went back and watched the older ones, and it's just like I'm so grateful for everybody's contributions to the sport that has just brought so much joy to my life. And
Yeah.
I'm hearing you tell these stories, and I'm just fascinated because it's like, we in the present take things for granted because they're already here. Right. Like I
Right.
started skating 23 years ago. So yeah, like in the year 2000, basically. Right. So I started
Yeah.
skating. Every skate had universal frames and
Right.
and H block and the grooves and everything. And I was like, yeah, of course. Of course we
Yeah.
grind. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't we? It seems like, so why not? But
Yeah.
to think that just like 10 years before that, that was like a new thing. And
It
that
was.
it was just you guys just trial and error, just having fun that led to an entire culture.
Yeah.
It's I look at that the same way when I think of you doing that as a metaphor. Have you ever seen this old footage of Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B.I.G., when he was like 17 years old in New York? Do you know what I'm talking about? There's
I think.
footage of him before he was signed as a rapper, where he is
Okay.
just a kid in the streets rapping with his friends.
Yeah.
Somebody else has that on tape, right? And you could just tell. It's like, oh my, that's that guy. That
Yeah.
guy is gonna
Yeah.
do a whole. It's gonna open up a whole storm of culture, right? And that's
Yeah.
the way I think of when I think of you, right? When doing
Yeah.
these things, like it's trippy, man. So okay, so when did it go from it being something that you were just trying to be MacGyver about to then Rollerblade adopting it and the other companies coming in, right? Because at this point, it's still just like a hobby, and you're just a weird guy trying to do extra shit with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, when did they
Well,
say no? He's onto something.
I was writing for Rollerblade, so I was very connected. Like I mean, I was, being taken to dinner and having meals
Right.
and kinds of great fun experiences with the CEO of Rollerblade and all the big corporates. Like they treated me well, and so but I was really connected with them. But in the '90s, lawsuits became the American way, and so they were extremely nervous of what I was doing. Now they loved what I was doing, and they circus freaked the hell out of me. They'd set up ramps. They'd like, here's our circus freak and his friends, and and gather around, and then get everybody there and watch the shows and woo crazy, and then at the end, who wants to try skates on, and we'd demo. So they used us as as the bait, as the scent, like, woo, come and get it, So they they did that to us for years, and it wouldn't be until 1994. Um, so I'm grinding by the end of '91. I'm screaming down big rails by the beginning of '92. '93 Dare to Air releases, Airborne, the movie, releases, and Vertical Access releases, and Daily Bread magazine releases. Okay.
Wow.
And they all hit stores and theaters worldwide. And it just exploded. Kids around the world wanted to fly. They dared to air. They wanted to grind. They wanted to get into it, and they wanted to do it. And that explosion finally put the rollerblade corporates and execs into a position where there was money to be made. So the moment there's money to be made, anything happens, right? So then
Yeah.
they we produced the Tarmac CE as the first freestyle skate in our history, and coincidentally, now in 1994, Rollerblade had a contract with Rosie's to be the exclusive boot manufacturer for Rollerblade Incorporated. In 1994, that contract ended. And in 1994, the Tarmac was produced and Rosie's was formed as an official skate company. And they did not sign with Rollerblade again, causing Rollerblade to have to go find manufacturing elsewhere. And so that gave Rosie's this intense jump into the industry, and they did great. They picked up Arlo Eisenberg, they picked up Tom Fry, Renee Holgrain, some great legends, and they started producing a freestyle skate as well. Now they, those first skates, no one had gotten a signature yet, but they were coming out right about the same time. So in '94, now there was the first World Championships with NIS. It was the first time we were televised on ESPN and ESPN2. And in '94, it just was wildfire. So and then the hoax came out in '94. Like this is when it went from spark of '93 to legitimate worldwide chaos and community. And it is, and then the industry was officially born in '94, where products were being produced specifically by the corporates for what we are doing. Now, prior to that, in '93, Angie Walton and Jess and Pat Parnell, myself, we all, created Daily Bread with Angie at the helm. And then we worked together on Dare to Air with the guys from Video Groove. I started the first brand that was like Skater Own, which was Birth, which I named Birth because we knew we were about to birth something.
Yes.
And so that's what Birth represents, and why I named it Birth you could tell. I got the energy and what God had laid out in front of us, man, was just tangible and unbelievable. And we knew we were filming the movie Airborne in '92, so we knew that shit was coming out in '93, and we were like, "This is it! Like this is our fucking 8 Mile opportunity, right? This
Yes.
is our Eminem, like fucking seize the moment, like right the fuck now." So Daily Bread was made. Dare to Air was, we were making sure the boys went and they edited, man, got to get this thing out just in time for the release of the movie, which was September of '93. So it's just, it was an incredible moment. And then '94 came. We were able to, from that spark, came the interest to do a televised series. We did NIS, and then the rest is history. The first skate,
Wow.
Carmack, and then by '95 we were, the featured group in the X Games, because rollerblade industry was $1 billion industry by '95. Billion. Like there was
Wow.
rollerblading is the fastest growing activity in the history of modern man. Like it's documented, and it's
What do
also
you
probably the
think?
fastest but ironically it's also probably the fastest dying in the history of man.
I was just gonna ask that. Yeah.
But by '94, '95, over 22 some million households had a pair of rollerblade skates in their house. Uh, People were riding everywhere. It was really taking off. And so Rollerblade had the money to help fund the first X Games. So Rollerblade Incorporated funded the first '95, '96, '97 X Games. That was Rollerblade.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that was Rollerblade Incorporated. And that's why we were the number one featured uh, group out of all of the action sports, which, clearly would, cause a little bit of resentment. But, the lack of gratitude, though, from the other communities, when we were extremely inclusive, because I have the utmost respect for these action sport communities, and I know that I'm influenced by them. I just choose to do my personal expression on a pair of skates because my father had me skiing as a kid. So
Right.
the lack of gratitude and really insight of the reality of how the X Games came to be is, kind of mind blowing. And then to totally ostracize an entire community who has always been open and accepting and enabling the action sports when they were at their lowest. BMX and skateboarding were at their lowest in the early '90s when we were bringing them on to do demos with us. They were making money with us because I loved them. My friends loved them. Just Darren Ford Parnell, he's a skateboarder surfer. Doug Boyce, skateboarder surfer.
Yeah.
These are like the roots of where our community comes from. I definitely was influenced by Christian Asoy. Dude, that dude in his day, man, popping 10-foot airs out of the half pipe. I was like, man, I want to do that. I loved a lot of his body movements, and I recreated them on skates, like the Japan air, the rocket air, the method air. Those all belong to Christian Asoy and skateboarding. You know, those definitely do. But I kept the name out of respect because it was a similar body movement. I didn't want to go and pretend like I created something that I didn't. I was the first to
Right.
do rollerblades, and for that I'm grateful. But I wasn't gonna not show my homage and my appreciation to where I was influenced from. Bro, this is crazy. I was blessed to learn how to do a McTwist by watching Mike McGill right in front of me at Mike McGill's skate park in Encinitas, California. I watched him do his McTwist, man, and then I figured out how to do his McTwist. And ironically, Fred Blood, who is an old school roller skater, was doing a McTwist similar body movement that Mike McGill saw do and said, I want to do that on a skateboard. I then got coached by Fred Blood and perfected my McTwist. So I was able, God had me touching these original human beings. And I'm so blessed to have been able to do so. And,
That's amazing, man. I'm literally just like imagining all this stuff right now.
it
Like that's
is incredible. I can't
wow.
make this shit up. And I like, all I know, man, is if I die tomorrow, bro, God was good to me and I'm so grateful.
Amen to that, man. Amen. When you okay, so what was your feelings when rollerblading got removed from the X Games? Because I wasn't there when that happened, and I'm sure there's all kinds of different reasons for it. But
Yeah.
what was your perspective at the time, and then what's your perspective now about it, and has that changed?
Um, okay, at the time, okay, now look at I started skating. We just discussed I started skating in 1985. There was no contest or anything until 1994. So you're talking about 7 years, pushing a decade before there was any contest whatsoever. I skated because I love skating. I tossed tricks because I love tossing tricks. I love the feeling of them. I love landing them. I love the process of eating shit and then overcoming it and landing it. Like I
Yes.
fell in love with that process, and like I was obsessed. I was obsessed as a kid, and it like many others, skating was my escape from a very I guess I don't know, lack of better word, a very shitty childhood at home,
Mm.
and I was able to just like escape from it, man. And I think that this weird little like I didn't give a shit whether I was alive or not alive because of the amount of like nonsense that I had to go home to. Like it just like made me just go crazy. And I was just like, I'll jump off of anything. The worst thing that could happen is I'm gonna die.
Wow.
But through that weird cynical process, I came alive, right? I found life. I found myself. I found my outlet, my way to just like release it all. And of course, I didn't want to kill myself. I'm still alive. I'm pushing 50. I'm still here. But I'm just saying that kind of like when you're just in a real shitty situation, everybody has it. Like God, I just like I don't even give a shit anymore. Like you get to that point sometimes in your life with situations and things where you
Sure.
just don't give a shit anymore. Like you just don't. But I think that you got to get to that point in order to do great things. So, God taking me to that journey and like, and through that really crazy upbringing, um, it's set me up.
Wow. It's like the pain that you went through was necessary to put you in a position to express yourself in a different way that actually led to so many other people feeling joy. Isn't that just almost poetic in a way?
It's amazing. And
man, what an interesting journey. And so then, so
Sorry,
you were
sorry.
saying that, but before
Sometimes,
a context, no, dude, I respect it. This is real shit.
yeah,
'Cause, what I'm hearing you say is that before there even was an X Games, you were already doing it because you
yeah,
love it, right? Which is the
yeah,
reason most of us do it, right? Because
yeah,
it feels good to do.
yeah,
It's a fun challenge. It's a process of solving problems and expressing yourself, not having rules. And
yeah.
then
It's a
that
great,
culture started the X Games.
it's a great escape,
Yeah.
and I was just a 12-year-old kid just trying to have some fun, man, and get away from the bullshit that was happening in my house. And then by the time I was 14, I was, found myself connected to the biggest brand in the industry. And and then by the time, the 90s come, I became the poster child of an entire community and an entire movement that was just like, it was unreal to watch happen. Like,
Yeah.
such a unique seat, because I mean, there's a lot of things that have already happened that are still great and that are going on within our community that were all happening well before I was born. It's a very rare opportunity for anyone to be able to actually start something new, and then that actually catches on, not only in the States, but then around the entire world catches on.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. It's
Well,
insane.
dude, I owe so much of my life to rollerblading. Like literally, growing up, moving to different countries, different cities. My parents were dancers, so we were always traveling. And when I settled in America, and I went to the local skate park because I had saw like the Tony Hawk game or something. I went there with the intention to skateboard, but the rollerbladers were just being so nice to me that I started trying that, and then I just
Yeah.
fell in love with it. And from there, I learned how to become a videographer. I learned how to sell T-shirts, how to use Adobe, how to make websites, how to be a business. Like literally, all my life skills, my entire university was hanging out with skaters. Like it taught me everything I needed to know. So much of my personality, so many of my best friends all come from it. Like even to this day, every time I go to direct a music video or something, my skates are in the car. Like if I
Yeah.
have a second outside before and after, like I'm hitting it up, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for it, man. I'm so grateful that you exist and that your life took place to bring so much joy. Like I'm telling you, like so much of my happiness came from skating. So
I,
much of it, man.
I appreciate that, because I can say the same. Like, it really, I mean, skating belongs to the world. It was never mine. It was never mine to have and to own. Like, that's not why I got involved with it. I mean, skating belongs to the universe, and I was just blessed to be used by a higher power. And like, I I guess, like, a part of my background, I'm a preacher's kid. Okay, like,
Mm,
my dad was an evangelist. When I was first born, I was actually traveling around in a trailer with my family, and for my first like 5-6 years of my life, I vividly remember the trailer and going to church after church. Just my dad being an evangelist. He then he took up like a, a assistant pastor job in SoCal for a handful of years, and then he became the pastor of a church in New Mexico when I was like 8. So we were in New Mexico for about 4 years, and then when I was 12, we moved back. And as a kid, I would, you know, I wasn't allowed to do anything secular, quote unquote, right? So I could not be anything of the world. I was allowed to be in the world, but I was not allowed to be of the world
mm,
because this intense Southern Baptist, like, dogmatic upbringing. I would I would rebel as a kid, and I would like get my friend to get me a Metallica shirt, and I'd wear it at school, and then I would take it off to come home, or but I would always get caught. And then I'd get my ass beat, because they believed in beating ass. Like, that's how you teach a kid, apparently, is just whip the shit out of them. So I grew up getting whooped, but by the time I'm 12 and we moved to California, my dad did the craziest flip like ever. Next thing I know, there's like alcohol, drugs, like my garage was like stacked boxes full of pornography. I mean, like everything that, like, on the other side of the spectrum, bro, that you could fucking imagine, I was now living. My parents are like partying and doing cocaine and speed and crazy inside my fucking house with my younger brother and my younger sister. Like, like this was the shit that I had to start fucking dealing with. I was just like,
Wow.
what is going on here? And then like as a 12-year-old kid, I found the skates. By the time I was like 13, 14, and I found myself getting connected with Rollerblade, I was like, man, I was like, yo, Jesus, I'm really sorry for being a weird rebel kid and like wearing a Metallica shirt. But, whatever you were doing is a hell of a lot better than what my dad's doing right now. Like, that's all I knew. So I dove pretty heavily to go as a kid, like 14 years old. Like I found a non-denominational church, more of an Assemblies of God that wasn't as like crazy strict about all the nonsense, and just kind of was more just about like reading the Bible and following love, and like more of what like Jesus was actually teaching. So I dove in hard, man. And just because it was just like, it was so much better than the bullshit that I was dealing with at my house.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I can only imagine what that must have been like, especially to have that flip from saying that all these and experiencing all those things. Must be such a confusing experience.
Yeah, it was wild, And then my dad starts cheating on my mom. Like, we go from within the first year of me living in California, by the time I'm 13, my dad was so messed up that his own stepfather fired him from his job. We end up on welfare. We lose the house that we moved into. Like, it was supposed to be our, the first house that we ever bought and purchased in Esca. But within a year, it was gone. All the cars were repoed. We went from like Honda Accords to Pintos. We went from, a really nice house in a decent neighborhood into some really shady, gnarly shit in Escondido, right?
Wow.
But by the time I was 14, I started landing commercials and started making some money and stuff. So like I started, to make sure that my brother and sister had school clothing for school, make sure that we had a little bit of food in the refrigerator. Like I kind of like ended up like taking on the father figure while my father was gone, and my poor mom was just going through it, and it literally kind of drove my mom insane, unfortunately. But I don't know. All I knew then was like I fell in love with skating, and I just I I I I had a talk with God, with Jesus, with the universe, however you feel your spiritual connection is. But I was just like, look, I love these skates, and like I want to do good with it. And if you'll open the door, I'll give it my all. So I did. And
Wow.
he opened a lot of doors. And it was, I mean, it's crazy, I mean, I know for sure now, like I just turned 49. I've been through a lot, man. You know, we all have. There's no need for like everyone has tragedy in their life, so you can't dwell on the tragedy. You just have to overcome the tragedy. Like there's no one's got it easy. Even everyone's got their issues. Everyone's got their things. But I know for a fact though that when you find something that it just like lights you up, if you dedicate yourself to it and you give it to the universe to worry about all that, you take what's in your heart and you follow that, then God will take care of anything else that is to follow. Does that make sense?
Powerful, bro. Powerful. Yes.
Like,
Well,
don't
because
worry.
at the most fundamental level, it's talking about faith and also connecting to a sense of joy and contribution, right?
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
can't control everything. Life is a grand collaboration anyway between us and everything else that's happening, right? And there's only so
it,
much we can control. And you found something through skating that gave you not only just a sense of escape, because you can escape into all kinds of dark things too. It's not just
yeah,
escapism for the sake of escapism, but it's creativity,
yeah,
it's athleticism, it's problem solving, it's community building, right? It's a fun energy exchange. It's a sense of discipline almost. Like, okay, you got hurt, but guess what? You're gonna try the trick again and again. Then you
right.
get better. Then you perfect it, and it's innovation. And I mean, that conversation you had with God, I'm grateful you did, because I mean, if had you not done that, who knows what would have happened to
Yeah,
you or to the whole community, you know? And obviously, there's many factors involved, but dude, that's so. I'm getting goosebumps hearing you talk about it, you know, because that's what life's about. It's about finding something that we're willing to go all out with, like that,
yeah.
right? Like
It
something
is.
that means that much to us.
We we're here for a purpose, right? And it because I was raised as a Southern Baptist kid, I've had a lot of dogmatic issues throughout my life that I've had to like decipher as whether it's truth or not truth, and
Right.
to find my own personal truth, so that when I, Lord willing, find myself uh, still moving in the universe when my physical body dies, then I can answer confidently for my actions, and I can you know I can be truly understanding of my wrongs, and why that wasn't a good choice, and what it affected, because our choices never only affect ourselves. Like, they always affect somebody, at least one person.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what choice it is that you make, like like those, you like so you gotta be, or I feel like we need to be, I always say you, and it feels too like so sorry.
Yeah.
uh, but like we as a collective, like what I've learned is I started studying all the religions, right? And including ancient aliens, which is kind of crazy cool too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but now you put it all together though, and the message is the same from all of them. Like, the message is literally the same, is that we were created by an ultimate creator to create. That's
Yeah.
what that's why we're here. We have a purpose to create. We're creators. We're made in the likeness of a creator who created us. And that at the end of the day, love wins. And it's the actions of love that will help you win. And it's the actions of, quote unquote, like, everyone's familiar with the deadly sins, right? Like, there's seven deadly sins. Those seven deadly sins are the there's the yin and the yang, right? So the yin is the positive, the yang is the negative, right? Is that right?
I think
So,
so.
okay, well, yeah, okay,
We get
but
it.
anyway, the good and evil. Okay, that's easier. Good and evil. So the 7 deadly sins are just actions that will prevent the good actions from prevailing. That's why they're killing. They're killing love, is what happens. So that's why those sins are quote unquote deadly. They're going to kill you if you keep doing that from progressing towards the positive and towards the good of humanity, of yourself, and of life and of the universe. But there's always there's two forces, like, no matter where you go, scientifically, spiritually, there's the positive and the negative energies that make up our universe, and they're always clashing. They're always coming at each other,
Yes.
and to find that balance is the journey of life between these forces that surround us. And you got to choose. You got to choose which side you're going, and then you go all in. Be the best badass bad dude that you possibly can be, or be the best awesome good dude that you can be. Because when you're floating on that line in the middle and just kind of like not deciding, you're useless.
Yeah.
You're
True.
useless. Like, you're no good to the good people and you're no good to the bad people. Like, what are you?
An NPC, as they say.
Yeah. You can't skate in the middle, man.
True.
So, for me, I chose positive. I choose positive. Like, I choose love. I choose love over hate. I choose goodness over badness. Like, and for 49 years, I have battled the dark side in me, because it's in me. It's in all of us. Like, it's within all of us. The good and the dark side and the light side are within us all.
Yes.
And the Anakin, he was light until he chose dark. So
Yeah.
you got to make your choice, and then you go all in. But see, like, Anakin went all in. He became motherfucking Darth Vader. So like that's one bad fucker.
Whatever you do, go all in. Do a Darth Vader motivational speech.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. I don't know where I was going with all of this. Just that
No, no, I love the flow. I love whatever you're channeling. It's what
I
needs to be
just
said.
I love I love life, and I'm so grateful for it, despite the negative things. But, like, those were all incredible lessons, and they've made me who I am, and what I am today. And, like, the motivation and the discipline and the drive that I have, like, reacquainted myself with in the past couple of years is, like, it's an accumulation of all my trials and my errors and my good times and my bad times. And I gotta, as long as I breathe, there's a shit ton more to come, both good and bad. And I've learned to just roll with the punches, man, and just be grateful. I think being grateful is the most key element. If you're not grateful, you're going to be pissed off.
Yes. Gratitude is the antidote to every negative emotion, right? Like, I can't be
It is.
grateful and angry at the same time,
No, you
because
can't.
it's like you don't get beyond scarcity, you have to start beyond it, right? Like, at
Yeah,
what point will I say what I have right here, right now, in this moment is enough? And I used to conflate that because I have so many ambitions. I used to think that the only way for me to stay ambitious is to stay in a state of lack, of like, I need
yeah,
more, I need more. But no, no, no. As a matter of fact, you can actually, quote unquote, achieve more from a state of gratitude, right? Because then it also
yeah.
changes what you're looking for. Like, most of
It
my
does.
20s, I experimented with a lot of things. And now I'm in my mid 30s and I know more of what makes me happy. And it's funny because it's going back to skating. Like, this
Yeah,
past year, I went to so many skating events and like nothing. And I've gone to big festivals, I've gone on tour with celebrities doing that, whatever. It's
yeah,
cool. Nothing made me happier than going to a skate contest and just
yeah.
hanging out. and just
Yeah.
seeing the people, like literally, like I'm on fire, like the way I'm walking around, I have extra swagger that day. I'm like nicer to my girlfriend. It's just like, and I just noticed that. I'm like, huh. Every time I do just about anything in the skating community, it just makes me feel good. It's there's something really beautiful there that I just can't let go of. And it's not like I want to go pro, but I don't want to be old and not skating anymore. That sounds like hell to me.
Yeah.
Like, no, what? Like I want to continue. And now I just recently got into snowboarding and surfing. And I just love it, man. It literally like like as a skater when you go to like a restaurant or you're out and about and you see tiles on the floor and it has the lines on the tiles and you start doing
Yeah.
the pretend grinds on the
Yeah. Right.
floor. You know what I mean? Like you can't escape it. Like once you're a skater, like you just that's kind of the lens you see the world through. And something I really like about our culture as well is that it trains us to look for opportunities and beauty where people usually disregard it, right? Like a normal person walking by an alley or an old building or whatever, they're like, ugh, let me get away from it. We see
Yeah.
one and we say, oh, there might be a spot here. There might be a
Yeah.
ledge. There might be a rail. There might be a bank, right?
Right.
And I think psychologically, right, it helped me succeed in the American dream, so to speak, right? Of like making a living doing what I love. Because in skating, it's just all about, dude, well, the fucking stairs are there. Either you're going to do them or you're not. The
Yeah.
opportunity is all around you, but you got to find it. I remember driving around new cities looking for skate spots. And that feeling when you run into a skate spot that you saw in the video, oh my
Yeah.
God. Like accidentally, right? Like I remember I
Yeah.
was in St. Louis this one time and I saw this one rail. I was like, I saw Brascow do this rail on a video, and I just ran into it like doing something else, and it's just like I love that philosophy of it, right? In that
Yeah.
we can make value out of anything. An old rusted staircase could be the most valuable thing ever to one person, and it could mean jack shit to the next.
Yeah. No doubt. And I mean, I think you're right. You look at life completely different than the average person once you start skating, because the world becomes your oyster, and then you start trying to figure out, like, how can I skate that? you know Sometimes I like don't even, like, maybe it don't even seem skatable, or is it? you
Right?
know
Or is it?
or is
Yeah.
it?
And in
I
your
can't.
case, you not only saw what was possible, but you made it more possible, right? When you created the H block and these and you're part of that pioneering crew, right? It's not
Yeah.
only what's possible with what I have now, but you looked beyond what you had at the moment and you said, well, if we had a little space here, we could do a little more grind, right?
No,
And I think that's such a great lesson for life, right? That it is what we make it. Some people are dealt a shit hand, and that sucks. But you already got it. You already have the shit hand, so might as well
yeah,
do something with it, right?
no.
At least try to have some fun with it. Like, dude, the funnest times I've had have been just street skating
Look,
with
the
dirt on
thing
my fingers. Like, funnest times.
you might have been dealt a shit hand, but I've never played a game of poker that you can't give some of the cards back, trade out some of the cards, and try to make a better one.
Yep.
Okay, so the whole, like, I've been dealt a shit hand. Shut the fuck up. We all, like, shut up and play. Put your money on the table and play. Like, let's go. Like, there's no room. Dude, I could have easily. God gave me all kinds of excuses that I could have just, like, lived my life on, and just, like, sat in my own self pity and gone nowhere. Like, there's no room for that. You can't. Like, we are about progressing. We're about moving forward. We're about doing what we got to do to survive, take care of our responsibilities, and then fulfill our purpose. And everyone's purpose is a little bit different, and your purpose. I guarantee that there's a ton of people on their deathbeds going, damn it, I should have done that. And they probably
Yeah.
were for 60, 70 years of what they should have done, but they'd let everything around them be their excuse to not do that. That
Uh,
is the that's the that is a shame.
It is a shame. It reminds me of an old quote. I don't know who said it, but they were saying that one of the richest neighborhoods in any city is a cemetery, because that's where all the most brilliant ideas go to die. They're buried,
Yeah.
right? Imagine how many books were never written, how many
Right.
businesses were never started or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, the way I look at it is, I'm going to die regardless. Even if it's
Yeah.
the best case, even if I'm Kobe Bryant and I become one of the greatest of all time, at some point you're still going to hit the mountain. Like, that's happening with or without me achieving my dreams,
It is.
right? Death is coming. So between
No,
now and then,
yeah.
how much can I experience and how much can I create? That's the only game that's there, right?
It is. No,
And
and I mean
yeah,
that's the ultimate challenge, you know, and you know, through trial and error, you know, that's life. You're gonna have, you know, good days and bad days, but like you just keep pushing, man. Just keep pushing for what is really inside of you. What's gonna make you feel fulfilled and whole. Like, man, I love rollerblading with all of my heart, you know. And to get back to the X Games and us getting out of the X Games. Oh, I started this whole tangent was all about how I never skated to compete. So I did compete, right? And at the time, I was blessed to have a jump on a lot of people. So I I skated well. I skated good. I won the first vert world championships in this. Arlo won the street. Tom Fry was right there. He Fry would constantly get second place in both vert and street. It would be the three of us. We're always switching 1, 2, 3 throughout the whole series, right? And vert was my thing because I was doing vert demos constantly. So I streaked the series on vert. Like I won every vert event. But then I won a couple of the street events, and then I would get like second or third with between Tom and Arlo, you know, and so we really, you know, went hard and had fun, and you know, Arlo got crowned the first really technically park champion, although he is also a massive street innovator, you know, because you know that Arlo created the anti-rocker system, right?
the
So
what?
like the anti-rocker system,
Oh,
that
really?
that's Arlo. So
Wow.
I I remember us being in, I think it was like 93. It had to be like 93. It was just before NIST had started because we met Arlo in Texas, I believe in 92. And then he moved out to California by 93. And then I remember we were doing like a camp rollerblade and Arlo was there. And he figured out that there was this little wrench that used to come inside the rollerblade box. And it had like, because back then it wasn't Allen, it was like bolts, nuts and freaking bolts. So it had like a little wrench, but the wrench fit perfectly at the two holes in the center. So he would take the wrench, like I took the metal joist hanger, he took the wrench and then kind of created his own little groove there and was able to get a little bit more of a groove. And then he took the small wheels and put them up in there. But then he put big wheels on the outside because you could definitely go faster that way than you could with flat 48s, right? So I would always have to like change out my skates. Like if I wanted to grind, I'd put my grind skates on. And then if I wanted to ride vert, I'd throw my 72s back on, you know, and that happened for a while until, man, probably until like around 95 or so. But, but Arlo came up with the anti-rocker. I personally didn't like it. I didn't like the like lack of like it takes away a little bit of the integrity of the frame and the way that you can really like utilize your inside and outside edges. And it does a small little minor twist. It's definitely a little bit different. But Arlo loved it. And that anti-rocker system though, you know, I mean Arlo was great for the community and the way he was able to promote it and really went after the street side, you know, while I was like contractually signed with Rollerblade to continue to do vert stuff. My street ability wasn't like available to me as much. You know, I was constantly booked. I was constantly traveling. I was constantly doing vert demos. I was, you know, so I was blessed to be the first dude to slide down the rails. You know, but my progression and my contribution to the street side is relatively minimal. You know, in comparison to so many of our
Right.
other great. You know, um, but you know, I love skating. I love all aspects of skating. I love street. I love park. I love vert. I ride it all. Just skates on my feet. Give me an and let's attack it. And that's how I've always ridden. I love it. And I didn't enjoy the contest. I'm not a contest skater. Like, I don't enjoy contests. Me personally, I think the contests are healthy and they're great, and they definitely can produce progression at times. But at the same time, it creates to be a contest skater, you're more in a repetition mode than you are in an innovative mode. And
Right.
my brain loves innovation. My brain likes something new. I'd rather go, bam, land something for the first time, boom, stick it. No one's ever seen that, and then walk away and never do it again. Like, that's how I like to skate, you know.
Yeah.
And by the time I'm still like that even now. Like, I'm trying to learn some of the new stuff, but I still like, my brain wants to find something different. I like different. And whether anyone likes it or not, I don't care. For me personally, I just like to skate differently, be different, and find my own thing. But I did all the first X Games and all that. Just I felt like kind of contractually obligated. But then by like '98, I was like, that's enough, man. Like, I don't belong on this side of the fence and the fans on that side of the fence. I'm a rollerblader, and I'm one of the people. That's where I belong, is in with the people, skating for the people, skating with the people. That's where I have my strongest calling, my strongest purpose, right? So I did the tours in 98, 99, 2000, did the birth tour, the detour, the diversity tours, which are all kind of one and the same. And I bought a couple of RVs. I picked up a bunch of dudes, and including Frankie Morales when he was like 14 years old. Frankie. I ended up being his mother signed over legal guardianship to me when he
Really?
when he was like 14. And I just took him on the road. We went to over 100 skate parks a year, and we just lived in the RVs for like 3 years straight. And
Wow.
when I first saw Frankie, I saw him do this like 540. That's like about where he was at the time when I met him. He could do a 540, but it was the sickest, squattiest Frankie Morales 540 you've ever seen, right? I was
Oh,
like,
so clean. He has the prettiest
you're,
540s. Like,
wow, bro. Like, I want to help you. Like, you're intense. And he's from the streets of Miami, man. He's a legit street kid. Like Frankie's look is not fake. Like, that's real. That's real shit. Like, I mean, he's a real street kid from Miami, man. He grew up in a hard way. And, like, when I'd met him, his brother had just gotten arrested. He wasn't going to school. I was like, man, if that's the way it is, bro, let's get you the hell out of here before you get arrested. Like, come on.
mm-hmm.
You gotta skate, and that's part of the higher calling and the higher purpose. When you give yourself to the universe or to your God, whatever you call it. Like, at this point in my life, man, I just feel like it's all one and the same. And no matter what, there's one universe, and everything involved with it is all together, and it's all one. I've been pushing a big, like, we are one kind of campaign, because we're one. Like, we're all one and the same. Like, this is for us all to be a part of, and wherever you can find yourself in that purpose in order to help us all, even if it's one person at a time, then that's the true reason for the season. And I'm so blessed that I was able to connect with Frankie, and then I ended up getting him signed with Rollerblade at the end of the tour, and then Frankie did the rest. Frankie became Frankie on his own and did his thing. But to be able to be a part of that, a part of his journey, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that, and I'm blessed to be reconnected with him now that I'm here in Miami. And that I'm able to work with him again, and be a part of his brand, and just skate with him and see what hang out with him and his family. It's amazing. But
Yeah, it's awesome to see what he's doing with Gods and with the video game, Frankie's World. I'm really excited to see that.
yeah, me too. I mean, I've seen pieces, but yeah, I can't wait till it's together and it's out there and it's doing what it does. But
Yeah.
um, so what happens is, I do the tours by the 2000 is when you could feel it starting to, like, there was a tank. The industry tanked, right? Um, it would have been like around 98, 99, man. Nike tried to jump in. Fila tried to jump in. You had so many major companies all trying to jump in and get a piece of that billion-dollar plus industry that they all hopped in, but the timing couldn't have been worse. They all produced mass amounts of skates thinking they were going to sell it, and that the lid had yet to be reached. That we're at 22 million. They thought for sure we could breach the bikes. Like we could get as many people on skates as you could bikes, which means there's another 10 million skate sales available, right? To be up into the
Right.
third of households. But that didn't happen. And so then now you've got all these major companies sitting on a shit ton of fucking product and no one to buy it. That instantly causes a crash.
Right.
It's like
Supply and demand.
supply and demand community. We live in a and you know that's how we work. It's supply and demand, especially in the United States. So the Rollerblade was forced to downsize, and in doing so, they were forced to remove their funding for the X Games. And the moment that you remove money from somewhere, you're probably going to get removed next.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't know it from that angle. So because X Games
There's
was
all
involved
kinds.
in funding it from the beginning, they also had to remove themselves from funding it just because of whatever financial reasons. And that probably made them say, "Oh, okay, well, wow."
That is, there's all kinds of conspiracies, right? Oh, it was Arlo was in a room one time. Oh, it was the skateboarders. They hated on us. Oh, it was they blah 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 blah. But you know, at 49 years old, man, I know one thing and one thing for sure: money rules everything around you, and
Cream.
you are not. It is hard to live a life that is not full of greed and not have money, right? So greed is an easy deadly sin to get trapped in. But that goes back to where you follow your heart and give it to the universe. It will take care of everything else to follow. So money is something that'll be there. If it's meant to be, it'll be there. Don't focus on the dollar bill, focus on your rollerblading. Don't focus on the dollar bill, focus on your filming. Don't focus on the dollar bill, focus on playing your piano. Like whatever it is, don't focus on the dollar bill. The dollar bill will come in time. It'll be there to help do what it's supposed to do. If it's meant to be, it'll be there. But it won't be there if you're looking for it. It's never there.
Well,
But
I think that's true because it money is an exchange for value for the most part, right? Unless people are doing, even when people are doing illegal things, even if somebody buys a gun illegally, it's a value,
yeah,
right? It's
right.
an exchange of something. And when we're just focusing on receiving money, we're not focused on the exchange being a win-win. We're saying gimme, gimme, gimme. But when we
Right.
focus on being a better piano player, being a better skater, being a better photographer, whatever, right? What we're doing is we're increasing our value, right?
Exactly.
And ideally, the real payoff should be just doing it, but we still got to pay bills. We got kids, insurance,
Right.
whatever, houses, right? But
Yep. Yep.
the more we focus on doing our own thing, we become more valuable. And then if we just find the right industry to exchange it with, then we can make, you know, at least enough to sustain it because we're
Yep.
focused on giving that value, right? Like
Exactly.
that is how you become a more valuable person at any company,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You know, I mean, that's really the essence of the money exchange really in life that I've found, you know. Like I've come in and out of money. Like, you know, I was a welfare kid and then I was getting paid tons of money skating and then I wasn't. And then I started a contracting company. I was getting paid quite a bit of money and then I wasn't. And then COVID hit and then I wasn't. And then, you know, and now
Same.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's been like that. I
yeah,
think I've made it and lost it so many times. At this point, I know money. It just flows. Money comes and
yeah,
goes.
yeah. Sorry, I blacked out there for a second.
Yeah,
Let me plug in. Um, yeah, it does. It truly it does just come and go, and like you know, and if it you only need it for certain things. And what, if you've got your purpose, God will provide. God will provide. The universe provides. Like that, you don't even need to worry about that shit, man. You just stay focused on doing you, and everything else will work. And if you got to sometimes you got to stay focused on doing you and work a side job just to pay the bills, which have nothing to do with your focus. That's just go pay the bills. But you got to stay focused on your one thing until God provides the opportunity to be sustainable. And you will never be sustainable if you don't stay focused on your purpose and on your calling. But
I agree, and I think objectively, it feels better to be a great contributor, right? It's fulfilling, right? Now, obviously, having a great time with my friends, that feels great as well. But even then, I'm contributing a good energy. I'm contributing being a good listener,
yeah,
or whatever, right? I think when we're focused on what we can give, it just feels better, right? And at
no,
the end of the day, feelings are what we're after. Even if somebody makes $1 million, if their day-to-day feelings are frustration and anger, then they're going to be a frustrated, angry millionaire. Like
yeah,
you're still going to feel the same shit, right? So if we can just do things that make us feel better, that's kind of like winning the game already. Then the money is just there to
no doubt,
support it. I just want to continue making videos and continue skating and having
no
enough
doubt.
money to go snowboard every now and then. And
Yeah,
you know, if I made millions, I'm not going to get more expensive chicken sandwiches. Like chicken sandwiches taste as good
yeah,
as they're going to taste for me. Like a nice grilled chicken sandwich with some crispy fries. My God, like that's
yeah,
it. I've tried fancy restaurants, and for the most part, there's no value added for me. Like a chicken tastes as good as it's going to taste where I like it, you know?
right,
And
right.
but the things that I do value are saying, "Oh shit, my friends are having a get together. They're going skating for the weekend. Let me afford to go take the weekend with them." That feels like
Yeah,
luxury to me. In
no,
February, I found a great deal at Big Bear where I'm going to go there on a Monday through Friday, right? When it's
yeah,
like the cheapest dates. So I'm going to spend a whole week there. I might have a little bit of work to do on my laptop, but I just want to post up. I found a cabin for like $70 a night. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
yeah,
what? I just want to
yeah.
post up there. And the fact that I have
Let's,
the freedom to do that, that's more luxurious to me than
yeah,
having a golden prison that you have to work
no
100
doubt.
hours a week for and not be able to leave, you know?
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. And and one thing is guaranteed in this life is you ain't taking no Benjamin with you
Mm-hmm.
when it's all over. You ain't taking nothing. You
But
come in
you,
naked. You come in with nothing, and you with nothing.
but I do like that you can leave a legacy, and there's many
Yeah,
ways to do that. And
there
that's one
is.
of the inspirations I had for this podcast. Even I was like, man, I want my kids when they're in their 30s to watch a video of me in my 30s talking with my friends about life and whatnot. Like that's a cool thing. Like when
That
you
is.
have friends that have passed away, you
Yeah.
realize how much each of their moments mattered, right?
No,
Because you have that last text message you sent, that last time. Like I have skater friends that have passed away, and I remember the last time we sessioned together. And maybe in the moment you don't realize how special it is, but it is special. It
it
really
is.
is,
It
you
is,
know?
man. It is.
Like,
And it's the constant experiences too, man. That's really what life's about. Is all the amazing experiences that we get to have, And I don't know, we just keep chasing after it. But back to the X Games, bro. I think I think that man, it's hilarious, bro. Because I think both of us like to take off on tangents. This
yes,
is
we do.
amazing. Okay, so but I it was a perfect storm, man. It was just a perfect storm. Skateboarding was frustrated and pissed off at us because we had the limelight. They felt they deserved it, and maybe they did. Like, I mean, who's to say? They definitely were here before us. No one can argue that. They definitely influenced the shit out of not only us, but BMX and wakeboarding, like pretty much a lot of stuff. But, they also, I think, they were influenced by surfing though, and they took roller skates in order to make a skateboard. So
Right.
we are all one. We are all one. Like there's no room for the nonsense that went down. But the storm was there. They seized the moment. Tony Hawk lands the 900, the same year that Rollerblade doesn't give him any more money. and now the skateboarding industry's coming up and they can start donating, then there it is. And then without any money from our community going to help support the X Games, I mean, what else did we expect? Like, what else? Like, it was just supposed to happen, just to happen? You know, they dropped all kinds of sports because they didn't contribute. We weren't the only ones that got dropped. All kinds of stuff got dropped throughout the years. And it's been the
Wow.
one that's been the ones that pay the bills are the ones that are still there.
Facts.
And, you know, if we have the opportunity to go back in and do it again, I don't know, maybe it would be good. Maybe it wouldn't. I think that I think personally, I think us not being in the X Games was the healthiest, best thing that could have ever happened to our community.
That's a hot
I
take, and I see
okay.
it. I see it. Go on.
We okay. Remember, uh, like from my perspective, I rollerblade because I love rollerblading. I do tricks because I love to do tricks.
Right.
I like the process of failing and then conquering. That
Yes.
to me is rollerblading. Is to find something that seems impossible and to do it.
Yes.
And to not, you know, you blow your own mind. And in some cases, you blow other people's minds too. And that to me is rollerblading. When we got connected with ESPN, we weren't allowed to showcase rollerblading the way we actually wanted to showcase rollerblading, which would have been more of a session style like we do now.
Right.
And you know, more just like letting people roll and get into it. They didn't know how to film that. So then we had to make runs. Because that way the camera guy could go for a minute. So the whole beginning of that was not organic. It was forced. It was for profit only, and it was not really heart and soul. It was just for ratings. And that was an ESPN format that was going to make it easy on them and their camera crews, and their understanding of how to edit through their systems was one skater at a time, put a number on them so we know who the hell they are, and then drop them in for a minute and then get them out, and then drop the next one in for a minute and then get them out.
Yeah,
That
that's not
works.
even organic to how skating actually works. Like the best part about
Or
a session is the fact that we motivate each other.
yeah, and then you start like when you're in a session, then you like, man, you see someone go whoop up and they land something, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I need to go do something. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
get like fire up your ass. It's like, all right, man. And at those moments in a real session, you know, whether it's in a contest session or in just a park session, there's a moment where it starts to light up, and you either go sit down and watch it, or you dig deep and you hop the fuck in.
Yes.
Like that's it, you know, to where you're just like, oh, this is beyond me, or like, I'm in with it. I'm going. Let's go. Like, you know, and that is like that is the essence of skating, and that is why, in my personal opinion, us being able to walk away from that forced, non-organic system was the best thing that could have ever happened to us. Look at our events now.
You brought up a perspective that I really like, and that is that realizing that sometimes not getting what we want gives us what we need. And that's what I take your answer as to how you feel now, looking back at us not being in the X Games anymore. Because I think to be upset that we're not in the X Games is to assume that that is the best thing for us. When in reality, there's probably all kinds of other negative things that can happen, such as people that don't actually love it coming into it just to drain out the money, but not actually contribute to the community, you know? And I would argue that rollerblading since then has never looked better. Like the way that skating looks now, the style, how clean people still go big, but they're so clean. Like it is
Yeah.
like such an evolved art form now that maybe it wouldn't be this way had we stayed at the X Games. Maybe we would have burnt out in a whole different way that wouldn't have led to all the beauty that we see now.
No, I think so. For me personally, it was a rough moment because at that time I wasn't competing. I had dedicated myself to the tours and the grassroots tours, though. But you know what? It was probably the best thing that I could have ever done was go lose all of my money driving around the country and promoting all of the core companies of skating at the time and showing the true industries. You know, what's not shown very often in the X Games, and definitely not through the ASA, was the industry and the core companies that actually make it work 365. That's never
Yeah.
showcased. You know, it's like, they just go after Slim Jim's money and forget about the rest of us. And then it was just like it was geared towards making an individual famous and not a community famous, which really is what makes skating is our community. It's not a one individual. It's not me. I was blessed to be there at the beginning and help spark this, but like, do you know how many people have contributed to our industry and to our community? The
Right.
list here, we couldn't do this in an hour or two. You know, I mean, starting with Arlo, and Tom Fry, and then you got Makio in Japan. Like, these are key human beings that, in their own right, were sparking their communities and were influencers back in the day that kept the balls rolling.
Actual influencers, because right now we use the word influencers and it's just people with followers. No, back then you actually
Yeah,
had an impact on people. Yeah.
and 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 they still essentially do, and I mean, you have so many great writers that have spawned after we were not in the X Games, where it became because it just became so core and pure again, and the session styles started like rocking, starting with like the bitter colds and
Dude,
and
how are you going to the new Bitter Cold?
yeah,
Dude, I'll
yeah,
be there. I'm so juiced for that. That
me
is
too.
like such a good community gathering event. I'm glad they're bringing
It,
it back.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm glad they're back too, man. That was like the US's Winter Clash, you know.
Yes.
And the Winter
Yeah.
Clash is amazing too. But I mean, like, you look at what has like evolved since then. It's been amazing. We wouldn't have all of that if it was for X Games. Everything would still be being run as a one man run for a minute. It would
Which
have
is
been
so
decades.
silly. Which is so silly because if you're doing a run, then you have to land every trick, so then you're more risk averse. So then you're not really trying shit. But in a session, you can give things a few tries to really get that banger out. It's
No doubt. Well, and then
and
look, and then you have the kings. You have the kings of it, like, started to spawn. You had Broscow, you had Aragon, you had Happy, you had Frankie Morales, Stefano Fano. Like you had some swingers, bro, that like came in and brought us to a completely new level. That is like was like unfathomable. Isn't that's a word?
I remember when Adam Johnson dropped the KFC 3 straight jacket video, and it had that
Yeah,
Viperlux section with Happy, Brascow, and Aragon, and then they all had their own sections, and Farmer had his section too. That video, I know
yeah.
there was already a lot of amazing skating before that, but that one felt like the beginning of a
Yeah.
new era of just these like mega hammers being done. And I
Yeah.
guess technically at every
Um,
stage there was a hammer being done, but that changed the game. Like that, yeah. What a video!
that
Shout out
era,
to Adam Johnson. That
though,
was a
right?
great video.
You have Latimer, you have Shima, you have
Oh,
Aragon, you have Happy, you have Morales, Broscow. I mean,
Feinberg.
that like Yeah, Feinberg, bro, like that little moment right there, man. Louis Zamora, Eric Shrine,
Yes.
Randy Spot. These guys, like, those guys were like the first push after us. You had Zamora, Shrine, B Bell, and Spicer, the likes there, and that which just led into Morales and Broscow and Aragon and Haffey and that era. That era is just like it's unreal. That
Yeah.
era is just real. And now we're spawning into our fourth generation now. Which is amazing. I mean, it's been 3 decades now, since 1993. I mean, this is 30 years now. We're in 2023. This has been going on for 3 decades now of just intense progression, and starting with the forefathers, and I'm blessed to have been, one of the forefathers. And I think as a community, we should be very grateful and blessed that at this moment in time, we actually know where we came from, and that where we came from, those human beings, most of us are still alive, and we're still here, and we still love skating, and we still, you know, as older skaters, want to be a part and want to be involved with the community. There's not too many things on this earth right now where the originators of it are still alive and kicking,
Yeah.
and that you are still part of its essential beginning and its birth. It's only the rollerblading is one of the very few. I mean, even skateboarding at this point is like pushing 5 decades, right? And
Yeah.
so like there's plenty of those. There's only a handful of those forefathers that are still here. And it's we're blessed, man. We're blessed as a community to be a part of something that we've all built together. I mean, this takes all of us. Like we together are the community, and it's not one single company and it's not one single player. It's all of us that made this. We did this together because it all goes hand in hand. It's one feeds the other, and we've created we've created a masterpiece at this point. I think that there's I think that there's tons of room to grow, which is great. You have to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying, and if you're not finding, the new spots to 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 excel and be at, then you're gonna become a stagnant pond. But one thing's for sure is, despite not being in the X Games, despite the incredible hate and uh, man, like it's not racism, but it was bladeism for sure. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
uh,
mean, there was a lot of crazy slurs thrown at us.
bro, they did everything in their power to destroy us and kill us, but we overcame. We overcame. We're here. We're gonna continue to be here, and there's not anything that anyone can say or do to stop fun, because rollerblading is fun. It's free. It's amazing. It's like no other thing. It's it's basically snowboarding on land. Like you don't get to throw them off. They're connected to you. You're not pushing something around. You're not pedaling something around. You are literally moving your own human body around and putting it into different shapes on different obstacles. And we're able to do things that other communities can't do. Vice versa, like we have a lot of unique, incredible qualities within skating that we should all be very proud of, and we should be very proud that we're all still here and very grateful. And and to all the haters, I feel sorry for them. Like that's just like such a bad place to have lived your life, is to have been one of those who got caught up in that, and to be one of those guys. I personally will just I pray for you, and I hope that you found your way out of such darkness, and that you found your way into the light, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because that was not what you were supposed to be doing.
Straight up.
You
Dude,
know,
I feel like you and I could literally be talking for hours. We have a
yeah,
good energy flow here, man. Chris, I want to respect your time, dude, and I want to give you your flowers. Like, thank you for all that you've done for our sport, and the fact that you continue to stay in it. I saw you at in Miami a few months ago at the Frankie Morales Invitational, and you were hosting it, and you were getting the crowd hype, man. And your passion for it literally has brought so much joy to so many people, and I just want to thank you for that. It's been a gift to me. At the very least, it's been a gift to me.
Well, I greatly appreciate it, Brazil, bro. Man, I thank you so much. And there was a moment there, like I had a decade where I was like I was running a contracting company and trying to feed my kids, man. But like I was like I was so I was so empty. It was a strange time in my life, and I would watch from a distance. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't in that point. I think I needed a personal breather. Like I was shot so intensely into the limelight as a kid, and I didn't sign up for it. Like I'm not the rollerblader who started rollerblading to become famous.
Right.
I'm not the rollerblader who started to rollerblade to earn money. I'm a 12-year-old kid who started rollerblading because it looked fun. It reminded me of a passion that I enjoyed that I couldn't do anymore, which was skiing. And I just found myself in the right place at the right time, and I dedicated myself and my life to it.
Yeah, it's all good. It cut you off right on your speech, man. You were
I
hitting
was
with a good
about to.
speech.
I was about to knock him out. The X. We got booted out of the X Games, and then I went on. I'd done these tours. I spent most of my earnings getting us all around and helping produce the next regime and promoting the industry through the grassroots of my tours. And then I found myself at Woodward for a little while, and then I moved my way down to Pittsburgh, and I found at that point I was I wasn't able, like, I wasn't keeping up with Frankie Morales and Montre Livingston or any of these guys. So my my
Right.
my pro career was over, and there wasn't a lot of money in the rollerblading industry. And the last thing that I wanted to do was try and go take money from the guys who were currently earning it and really doing great. So, I was forced to go start a contracting company and take care of my children and my family. And I think that I really did need the break. Although I found myself like often a little bit depressed, and I knew that I wasn't like fulfilling my purpose anymore. It's like we were just talking, like I was just earning money just to feed my children, and I was doing things just to keep everyone alive, but I wasn't chasing my dreams anymore. And I think that now like after COVID, I think it woke a lot of people up, and I was just like, okay, I gotta get back into this, like, and no matter what, like, who cares if I make money or don't make money? I just gotta skate. I gotta be part of the community. I can't not be a part of this community. Like that was my purpose, and my calling was to be part of this community and to influence and help inspire to my best abilities, and so I jumped in, and I'm just so grateful to everybody for that decade that it was really dark and not a lot of money in skating, that people found a way to maintain and sustain themselves and keep us moving. John Julio, I respect so much for his ability to be able to just stay the course the entire time. Like it's so incredible. I don't, excuse me. I mean, with Julio being able to stay the course, I respect it so much. It's an incredible thing, and everyone who's helped support him and keep him there has helped keep rollerblading going. USD, Richard, and so many great players from USD had a major part in it. I think that Matthias from Power Slide has done a great job keeping the balls moving. And everyone else who just contributed for all those years. The boys at the Bitter Cold for running that, man. The Winter Clash is just absolutely incredible. The Blading Cup is just what they just did their 12th one. It's just there's been so much contributions around the world that have just kept us here, and I'm eternally grateful to all of you. First of all, for believing in the possibilities that skates can bring, for believing in myself during my prime, and for supporting me, for purchasing any of the products that I endorsed. Um, I'm I'm well aware that without you, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be who I am today without all of you. We're an amazing community, and I'm so proud of all the skaters out there who just continue to push the envelope and take skating to larger and greater heights than ever imagined. I could have never imagined it back when I was first starting this whole journey, and I'm honored and extremely excited that the journey continues. I'm working my ass off right now. I want to be able to continue to skate for the rest of my life. When I started skating, it was a lifetime commitment, and though uh, there's been moments when I wasn't able to skate full time like I wished I could, I never stopped skating. The love of skating has never left my heart, my being, and I think that we all have the right to say that I am rollerblading. You can say it. You say I am rollerblading. I will say I.
Yes, I am rollerblading.
We did this, and we will continue to do this. And to anyone who is getting back in, welcome back. And there's always a place for everyone. And anyone who has a problem with anyone who's used to skate back in the day and is hopping back on now that you feel that it's quote unquote cool again or that it's awesome again, let that go. Just let that go and embrace everybody. Like there's everyone's welcome at any time, whether we're on a high or we're on a low. And naturally, when things start to go high again, it motivates people. So there's gonna be a bunch of people hopping back in. That's what we want. That's what we need. That's what we all deserve. Like, let's go. Let's go. Let's grow. We already know that when we weren't growing, we were dying. And that we fight our asses off to stay
Yes,
alive. So grow. Let's grow. Together, let's grow. We are one. That's all I gotta say, Brazil.
dude, Chris,
Yeah, man.
thank you so much, bro. I'm like, thanks for this conversation. Thanks for everything, and thanks for getting back into it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at Bitter Cold, bro. That's gonna be a
Hopefully,
reunion for
yeah,
the
bro.
history
Hopefully, I'm
books,
skating by
man.
then, man. I'm doing the damn thing, like like I just like I've been working my ass off, man. Appreciate the guys here at Elevation. I look forward to your interview with Angel. I'll connect you guys because that'll be a great interview.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, please connect me
And
with him. I would love that.
that's it, man. You asked what I did today. Well, today I just did an interview with Brazil, and I was hanging out in the Brazilian Air lobby. for almost 2 hours. And then now I'm going to go work out. And then I'm going to go to bed.
Well, man, thanks once again. And I'll see you
brother.
next month, bro.
Thank you.